Hello on YouTube, on Twitch, and welcome to another episode of my Zelda Singularity Let's Play series. This is Northstar. Hope you're well, taking care of each other and being kind to yourselves. Those new to my channel, welcome. Returning viewers, welcome back. And before, you can check out previous videos and many other games. I have over 3 dozen. And indeed, in this game, although it's not really... I mean, there's technically progression, but it's not really a story or anything. On my YouTube channel page, over 2,000 videos, lots to discover. Here I got the human life exploration. I always find this one a bit morbid and, yeah. Do not love some of the decisions of what the game developer made to emphasize certain diseases, such as, well, you'll see if I get to it. Probably not this video anyways. There's no point talking about it. Anyways, viruses. I actually studied viruses at a graduate level, which is how I know a great deal about. For instance, is this... It says there's game audio, I just can't really seem to hear it. It's a little too low with the background noise of my air conditioner, which is annoying. But anyways, it's how I know quite a bit about long COVID, which, for instance, besides keeping up with the scientific literature, which I am disabled with, and yet run into too many people claim they don't know anything, who claim they've never heard of the disease before, and then proceed to be acutely, aggressively ignorant about the very disease they claim they never heard about before, believing, oh, it can't be that bad that you can't. No, I can't do normal things with this disease. I can't go out and work. I can't even hardly take very good care of myself. I manage to find the energy to eat 1 meal a day. I also have a lot of GI discomfort, which makes it makes me less interested in eating, because my intestines are always roiling in discomfort and sometimes pain. This is one of the symptoms of long COVID that some people are affected by, and not everyone who has it, but I suffer from it, and so I'm dangerously close to being underweight, which the doctor always wants me to try and at least stop my weight from falling any further whenever the subject comes up. Of course, being underweight gets me bullied by especially ignorant, relatively undereducated males, where, the base aggressiveness, dominance, hierarchies nonsense is much more out there, because education acts to, well, sometimes suppress our baser instincts. But if you don't have it, you act a lot more like an animal. One of the many reasons education is so important to society, it's not just about jobs you can work. People are less likely to, for instance, engage in criminal activities. Although a lot of bullying occurs in school environments, unfortunately, because it is a environment that is susceptible to it, it also gives people the perspective that I found a lot of people who were bullies of mine when I was younger, and then they went out and got an education, learned it was wrong. They might not have if they, go to college, or to think more deeply about the world, eventually reflect on their own actions, realize they did something wrong, and in some cases, go back and apologize about it, like on Facebook. I'm like, oh, that was so long ago. I gladly accept the apology. We all grow as we get older, but education helps. Bullies who got an education were much more likely to do this. versus those who, never went beyond a high school degree. Right. Anyways, let's check the chat is working correctly here. Got here the beyond exploration. This is a model of the known universe. It's not a great model, but seeing something like this, it's easier to remind how tiny we are. There's a couple conclusions for this and implications and such. One, I think our society has a strong obligation actually to go out and eventually expand to the stars, because if humanity is in more than one solar system, less likely to ever be wiped out. Also, knowledge can be exchanged between star systems. It's unlikely any kind of technology that would ever make it economic to trade resources between stars will ever exist. We already have the tech to reach other stars with something like Project Orion, which is basically using nuclear bombs, miniaturized nuclear bombs to propel a spacecraft, which we already know how to make. We're already in great danger of wiping out the world because we made so many nukes. That technology, which John F. Kennedy banned further research on because it could possibly have violated the Nuclear Test Ban Treaty. But after the proof of concepts had already been done, it was already known for sure it could work. It still could be revived, although it might require some international treaties to be revived, but revised. But this idea that politics extend and nothing can ever change, international treaties can't be revised, is necessary, governing systems can't be, that's nonsense. It's a sort of helplessness that the ruling class wants us to believe. That nothing can ever change. Bull. Change is the only constant. As a person with a biology background, and biologist actually, published scientist in biology, I can very correctly call myself a biologist. As a biologist, I'm particularly going to see this, that change is the only constant, because living organisms, they basically grow or die. Indeed, you see that with nation states, empires, though they sometimes interpret grow to only mean territorial expansion, and you get like the US now wanting to take Greenland and never thinking about how they can grow in other ways, more philosophical ways. But of course, that would require things like maybe going deeper into being a real democracy in the US, approaching direct democracy perhaps, which billionaires definitely do not want, or basically an oligarchy pretending to be a democracy, doing things like rolling back the power of the ultra-rich, maybe creating more forms of direct participation, online voting on laws perhaps, where people would directly vote on things, having essentially more things moved to the referendum space. Politics would be good, but it's something billionaires would hate because it would limit their power and influence. And so they push, democracy's two wolves, and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Nonsense. That's a stupid, idiotic, libertarian con man that's practically together, because libertarian ideology is really run by basically academic versions of con men who push nonsense theory. Line that's just used to try and actually expand the power of billionaires, as if the billionaires were some kind of oppressed minority. The sheep in the analogy, it's a load of crap. But yeah, it can be challenging to see the true scale of the universe, to consider it, and then it's like very small. Be challenging in one's faith. Of course, I live with roommates right now. One guy who's absolutely monster, selfish, insults people all the time. The other guy's a religious fanatic. It's probably actually by far the greater challenge to my faith, because He claims stuff like that you've seen the face of Jesus in a vision, and yet he acts in a profoundly unchristlike way, and suffers from a great deal of self-righteousness, which I can see, partly because that's a flaw I've suffered from a lot of my life, and I've worked very hard to correct and to fix and to be aware of myself. So you remove the splinter in your eye before you remove the log in your eye before you move the splinter in your brother's. But the converse is that if you do that, you work to do that, you'll learn to see that very flaw that you work to correct in yourself very easily. And it's not even hard to see. This guy's incredibly self-righteous, and he will do things like, despite that. Let's not have this. Oh, I accidentally set it to reverse. Or not have any computing power spent making things move in the orbits at all. Just trying to get the great attractor here one more level up, but this is incredibly slow. So let's poke back over to the threat of infection. The main thing is when the golden asteroids show up, that advances that a little bit, that simulation. With a chance to amplify earnings from a certain generator. But when this guy goes around not believing anything I say, especially about long COVID, having to be basically like pulling teeth to get him to expand his understanding of it all. Although, to be fair, I was talking to my mother about relatives who took years to make as much progress as this guy's made in a couple months in accepting what I'm saying about the disease and understanding it. But it's still not nearly, it's still much slower and more difficult than it should be. It's because certain relatives I have are much more stubborn. This guy's don't like if I send him scientific articles, and he's not equipped to understand scientific articles. He's trying to do a nursing program, and he's struggling with academics. Really need at least a college degree in biology, or at least, well, the education. It doesn't really matter. We need at least a college education in biology to be able to understand a lot of the science on long COVID. To really understand it. I mean, people may think they understood an article, like, but if it's anything other than, there's some articles in Nature and such, they're meant to be very easy to understand for people outside the field, but the vast majority of articles, especially in, more specialized journals of epidemiology and virology and infectious disease and stuff that specializes in issues to do with inflammation, because long COVID is fundamentally an inflammatory disease, possibly an autoimmune one. That is, the body may actually make antibodies against the virus that end up targeting itself. It may essentially have a strong or predominant even autoimmune component. But anyways, but yeah, even if this guy would not even try to understand the stuff if I sent it, and some stuff like getting vengeful about little things done by accident that upset him, which is profoundly unchristian thing. Even when he was told that thing was accidental, like he leaving underwear lying around in the bathroom. I thought it was the other guys who was constantly harassing me. I put it originally over the rim of a laundry basket. That other guy lives out in the common areas. I can't move that out of there, which is kind of gross. Whoever I think was that guy's didn't get claimed. Eventually reappear in the bathroom again. Which, who did that? I still don't know. Didn't get claimed, so eventually I asked the guy, the basket, is that yours? It's like, no. So I figured it, process elimination, it had to be the hyper-religious guy. Put it over his doorknob and he freaked. He's like, oh, you did that to upset me. It's like, no. I had a lot going on that day. The third guy was harassing me that day, messing with my stuff. Just having my mother demand that I help her with what turned out to be setting up an air conditioner in her house. That she couldn't do it on her own, so asking me to come over and help her fix her air conditioning. No, not fixed setup for air conditioning. Even though my long COVID, I have incredibly low energy, and she knows that. So basically, that making that most of the entire task of my day, helping her. She knows how limited my energy can be. And that one helped me get an air conditioner set up that very same day, which involved incredibly overexerting myself. Ended up sleeping like 14 hours after that. Went home, collapsed, fell asleep, slept 14 hours, still woke up exhausted because that's how long COVID is. But anyways, but yeah, dealing with, a lot of other things. It was not top of mind. It's like, look, people make mistakes when, especially someone who's relatively absent-minded like me before I got disease, that makes it hard for me to focus and notice things. And I often go through a day in a blur. It's not intentional. And yet he still acted like it wasn't and tried to get revenge for the thing I had already told him was not intentional, not accidental, and not meant to upset him. I mean, not intentional was accidental, was not meant to upset him. Like, not realizing he would get so annoyed by that thing. And hardly realizing was putting it somewhere and not even thinking about it very carefully. Some people can be weird about such things. Well, I'm not even sure he didn't just ignore the thing because it migrated back to the bathroom before I put it there. So was that him? If so, why is he can't just leave stuff lying around? It kept falling off where he put it, off him or whoever else put it in the bathroom. It kept falling, and I kept picking up over and over. It's like, you don't like touching it when it's on a doorknob. I had to pick this up like 6 times in the bathroom. So yeah, I'm just putting it somewhere to get it out of the way. I'm not trying to upset anyone, but I think literally while he was talking to me, put it on the kitchen table. I'm like, no. I picked up and said, oh, don't you learn? Don't touch it. I'm like, dude, you just saying how gross it was to have a doorknob, and then you put it where people eat, which is worse. Don't. It's this petty animalistic dominance crap. He thinks just because he's big and strong that, and I'm visibly weak, can do stuff like that. I don't know. It's profoundly, as I said, unchristian way to behave. Maybe that's reading too much into that, but even set up, I did it to express myself. To putting underwear on a table is not to express yourself. Or maybe, like, did you mean so your hands are free, so you express yourself with their hands? Oh, no, or you didn't exactly answer that, but you kind of, they started saying no on something else. I don't think he was saying that, but either way. It's a profoundly unchristian way to behave. Jesus tells us to be forgiving, to not let the sun set on a fight without resolving with our brothers in Christ. Like, this is just the opposite I'm seeing. And seeing someone like that try and insist that they get messages from God and they've seen God, Jesus' face, it's just like the challenge to my faith. Also, he tries to act like I'm not religious just because I have a left-wing Christian background. It's like, even tell me about things where it's like, I had preachers make this exact sermon, so I'm not just pulling this out of nowhere. Just because you go to communities that are much more right-wing doesn't mean everyone agrees with you about, say, the strong anti-LGBTQ biases that you have. Whereas God tells us to be more forgiving, and like, even if you think it's wrong, it's not called out as worse than a lot of other things that will get a person stoned to death in the Old Testament. So stop. This drives people away from the church. This is not a good way to behave. But he does. Then, you taught it. That's not a Christian way to talk. No, it's not a Christian way to talk the way this guy is, and it's really upsetting me. Not just that he does these things, because everyone makes mistakes, but that he insists he does nothing wrong. He insists that, who am I to talk to me? Who are you to talk to me this way? I'm like, I scold him like, this is a profoundly unchristian way to behave. He doesn't think, he thinks he gets to scold people. He's somehow, and I see this is the self-righteousness too often. Religious people, they think that they've been affirmed by God, that everything they do is right. And so no one can scold them, and their interpretation of who has that authority is based purely on if people fit the models agree with what they think it means to be Christian. So if someone has a different understanding of it, even, different preachers went to different churches, etc. They won't think that that person can tell them anything about this very clearly in non-controversial parts of the Bible says to not act this way. I don't know. This is probably why some people, certain atheists would be like, religion is ridiculous. I'm a socialist, and I do not love the atheist aggressiveness you sometimes see among certain Marxists, but Marxist socialists, a democratic socialist, but I wouldn't consider myself a Marxist-Leninist. People call me a reformist thinking, but no, I think that not use any extra legal means or trying to bring down a system with strikes and like peaceful collapse to get socialism is not likely to work in today's world with how much the billionaires have reinforced, strengthened, made it unassailable their own dominance and power. So, if you even talk about this stuff, you in many countries can get abducted, tortured, and I fear the U.S. is actually headed that way. Where even talking about socialism, period, will eventually get you, disappear in the night. Certainly many right-wing puppet dictatorships the U.S. has set up are like that. So people have to work within the system if they're going to change anything, because working outside of it will get you killed, and then you can't change anything. But anyways, I do see aggressive anti-religious stuff, but I can understand why people can get turned off of religion with the way some religious people act. I mean, heck, we have I fear the death of this scheme. As follows my videos may hate me saying this because I think you might be Jewish, but that doesn't mean Zionist, but unfortunately a large percentage are in the US. I think it's less than half, but it's like 45-55, so it's a coin flip whether this guy is or not. But you see Israel freaking justifying a genocide based on religion, based on religious texts and ideas of things that happened 3,000 years ago. And then they're justifying murdering and wiping out cultures, and that's a profound example of how people can abuse and pervert and twist religion to do horrendous things. And that's the kind of thing that certain atheists will weaponize. Which is, of course, why one more reason what Israel is doing is profoundly unholy and twisted and something God will condemn. Partly because it leads people away from religious faith, seeing people abuse religion this way. And partly because they're directly defying things in the Old Testament and say you should not reform it. State of Israel, Kingdom of Israel, basically. Very many times the Jews were driven to exile and stuff. And very last time was never rescinded. Re-establishing the nation of Israel is directly forbidden. And this isn't just something I say out of nowhere. There are groups of ultra-Orthodox Jews who fully agree with me on this. It's their sects of Judaism that consider Israel to be a monstrosity, to be something that's against the will of God. That it's not allowed to redo it, especially when when some of the Israelis are talking about rebuilding the temple, which is forbidden. Lanikia means immense heaven, or open skies in Hawaiian. How immense? How open? To recap, our cosmic address is Earth, Solar System, Milky Way, Group, Virgo Supercluster, Lanikia Pisces Cetus Supercluster Complex, Universe. The end. Right. It's a weird bit of text. But, yeah. I don't know if religion will survive. People go out amongst the stars. It probably will as a small, maybe even oppressed, but hopefully not oppressed minority of humanity. There'll probably always be religious people no matter how far humanity spreads. But I don't know. Religious people have to take a role in leadership and actually making the world better if they don't want people to be turned off more and more by religion instead of pushing intolerance and thinking somehow they're making the world better by purifying or whatever. They're never going to get rid of gay people, for instance, ever. Because people are born that way and they will always be born that way. So even if they murdered every single one of them, there would be more born like a day later. Which is something these religious right-wingers never understand. This Nigerian religious fanatic guy doesn't. I'm like, people are born LGBTQ, so you shut up. This is not a choice people make. You're being intolerant and bigoted. You can say that these people are somehow obligated to be celibate, but you cannot say it's a choice because there is no choice involved. That's a scientific fact. No choice involved in who we're attracted to. It's something that has to do with prenatal and very early childhood brain development, like when they're babies. It's got nothing to do with a conscious choice that we're attracted to. Now, there's some theories like what is it? I'm trying to remember this theorist who said that believes that basically all people are bisexual to a degree, and just many people suppress that instinct, that tendency subconsciously, and people think they have to choose whether they're straight or gay. So you see people who are very far towards one end. What's the Kissinger scale? No, not the Kissinger. Kissinger is the psychopath diplomat. I know there's a word for it. I'll just Google it. The Kinsey scale. The Kinsey scale. Kinsey believed that, yeah, pretty much vast majority of humans are actually bisexual. But, if someone very rarely is attracted to the opposite gender, for instance, they may just believe they never are, because they may be even disgusted by the majority of people of the opposite gender, for instance. But they may very rarely be attracted to members of the opposite gender, and same thing with someone who's almost always attracted to the opposite gender may, usually be disgusted by same homosexual ideas, and so think that they're completely straight, but in actuality, they're not, because there may be a 1 in a million time where they're not. They just don't realize it or suppress that the rare time it happens. And this is theorized to express itself in the occasional bouts of homoeroticism and so forth. But anyways, that's something that these religious right-wingers really would hate, even though it would actually affirm their idea that it is, to some degree, a choice how someone lives with regards to that. In terms of, someone being celibate most of their life until they find the 1 in a million time when they're attracted to the person they're supposed to be. Even that would, be something that the religious right-wingers would refuse to tolerate. They are very problematic in the way that they're aggressively ignorant about these things, refuse to engage in even scholasticism, which is trying to bring scientific and religious ideas that seem to contradict into harmony to try and find how they might actually fit together. Instead, you get this aggressive ignorance these days of just, no, that can't be right because I don't want it to be right, because of the way I think this religious text works, even though most of them have never read these texts in very great detail. I've spent far more time reading the Bible than many of these right-wingers. But they think they understand it better just because usually some charismatic leader tells them that the Bible says this, and they don't bother to pick it up and read for themselves and see if that person is right. And very often they're wrong. They're either intentionally misreading it, or they're just not a very good person to understand it, and they're actually popular just because they say come to conclusions they're catchy, not because their ones are true. So, of course, that can work in a left-wing direction too. You'll see right-wingers accuse left-wing religious leaders of doing that, even though they're blind to it happening in their own circles. So, left-wing people tend to be much more self-reflective, though, and actually consider where these things might not be occurring. Self-reflection tends to be a left-wing thing. I mean, psychological studies and stuff have shown right-wingers tend to be more apt to be disgusted by things. They tend to be more intolerant, and they tend to engage in less self-reflection than people with left-wing ideas about, well, politics, but really anything. Religion, you'd almost certainly find the same tendency if you'd studied it. But yeah. So, this guy, ironically, the religious fanatic is one of the greatest challenges of my faith, because he's many times a very bad example of how a Christian should behave. And he has a kid across the world. He's not there taking care of it. He's like, well, I'm sending money. It's like, no. Really? You should be there taking care of your daughter. In person. Having acted as a role model and protecting her from the little things that money alone can't solve. But you weren't. And if money is such a priority for this guy, he really should be studying harder his classes. Seems like too often he gets distracted from them. But I see really it's probably just bad time management, because it's like doing unlicensed contracting stuff and trying to talk to an ex-wife he has who's entirely separate from the one who he has his kid by in another country. And he's trying to do too many things at once, basically. Hasn't learned to say, no, I don't have time for this, to prioritize. Wish I could leave him a copy of a book I read when I was a kid, 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens. There's actually the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This is more geared for a younger audience, but I picked up the People one once, and it's almost unreadable. It's so dry and boring. So the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens is much more readable even for an adult audience. And this guy doesn't have great English language capabilities, so the simpler language would also probably make it easier for him to understand. But unfortunately, if I tried to get him to read this book, he wouldn't say, oh, I'll do it sometime, and he'd never do it. It says about various things that suggested he read, so there's no way he would. And that's also, I know there's no way I could ever get him to read any of the stuff about long COVID, because even stuff I've suggested about other things, he just doesn't read. Does listen to like music and stuff. Sometimes it's not like he's got zero free time, but maybe he should spend some of that reading. I don't know, maybe reading's not relaxing for him. Needs time to rest, do it. Readings, but I don't know, the 7 Habits of Highly Effective Teens is an entertaining book, so even though it's not necessarily not reading just for pleasure, it can actually be quite relaxing, because it's a relatively entertaining self-help book. But anyways, something I read was scrap, as I said. But while not everything in there is perfect, the important life skills are things like time management and prioritization of what matters, what's important but not urgent, what's urgent but not important. So distractions are often urgent but not important things, whereas sometimes something's important, you have to get it done, but it doesn't have to be done right this second. Sometimes things both urgent and important, which are the things you always need to do first. Important life skills that most people are just not taught growing up. That book probably changed my life for the better. I'd say there are 3 key books that I read as a kid. One was that book, one was the Bible. It listed earlier, but as a child you don't fully understand everything in it. And there's a few other books. I'm not sure which to put in 3rd place, but those 2 books particularly had an impact. Maybe another self-help book I read. I don't want to discuss it right this second, though. As a kid, Dad was sometimes dropping things. It was a little insulting, but had an unintended benefit. He liked to beat people down with his actions and words, make them feel small, but ironically the self-help books could actually be useful. Even when there was a kind of undertone to it that was not nice about the way he would push that in his own kid. Make people feel small, basically. I probably need to get the smallpox upgrade generator over here next. I don't know, I'm not sure I want to click that long. I'm just one more level of human life. Level smallpox, like the generator, instead of having basically the Japanese smallpox plague is what it actually is. And I think that's enough for now. I hope you all enjoyed this video. Take care of each other. Here's be kind to yourselves and may always find a guiding star. Lead you home. Until next time, this is Northstar. Adieu. Best luck to you all.